save more for Emma's future. I said, "What kind of job? Where will you work?" Mark hesitated. He said, "Just some evening work. I'll leave at 9 o'clock and come back after midnight." I asked again, "What kind of work?" Mark looked away. He said, "It's hard to explain, but don't worry, Margaret. I'll be safe." Something felt strange, but I trusted him. That night at 9 o'clock, Mark left. The house felt quiet and empty. Every night after that, Mark left at 9 o'clock and came home late after midnight. Every night, he showered immediately when he got home. Then I started noticing things. One morning, I was doing laundry. I smelled Mark's shirt from the night before. Perfume, women's perfume, sweet and floral. Not mine. I do not wear perfume because it makes Emma sneeze. My heart stopped. Why does Mark's shirt smell like women's perfume? A few days later, I found a receipt in his coat pocket from an expensive Italian restaurant. Dinner for two, $150. The date was last Thursday, the same night Mark said he was working. My hands shook. Who did he eat with? I felt sick. That evening, I wanted to ask Mark about the receipt, but I was afraid of what he might say, so I said nothing. But I started watching him carefully. Mark was always on his phone, texting, smiling at the screen. When I walked into the room, he quickly closed his phone. I said, "Who are you texting?" Mark said, "Just work stuff." But he looked nervous, guilty. One night, his phone buzzed while he was in the shower. I picked it up. A text message from a contact named C. It said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Same time?" My heart broke. Can't wait to see you tonight. Who was C? When Mark came out, he was smiling. He looked happy, excited. He kissed me and left. I sat on the couch holding Emma, crying quietly. Over the next week, more evidence appeared. Another receipt from a flower shop. 2 dozen roses, $75. Mark never bought me flowers. I also noticed Mark dressed better for his night shifts. He wore cologne. He styled his hair. My friend Sasha came over. She saw my red eyes. She said, "Margaret, what's wrong?" I told her everything. The perfume, the receipts, the texts. Sasha said, "Margaret, it sounds like he might be cheating." I shook my head. I said, "No, not Mark." But I did not believe myself anymore. That night, I decided to follow him. I asked my neighbor to watch Emma. At 9 o'clock, Mark left. I followed his car. He drove for 20 minutes to a quiet neighborhood. He parked in front of a small house with a blue door. He walked up to the door. It opened. He smiled and walked inside. I sat in my car, staring at that blue door. My husband just walked into a stranger's house at 9 o'clock. I felt like my world was ending. I waited 2 hours. Mark didn't come out. Finally, I drove home crying. Mark came home late after midnight like always. He showered. He got into bed. I pretended to be asleep, but inside I was screaming. The next day, I looked through Mark's phone. I found C's number and searched it online. The name appeared, Catherine. I found her on social media. She was beautiful, long dark hair, around 40 years old. She was older than my husband. My heart sank. This was C. This was the woman my husband was seeing every night. I looked at her photos. She looked happy, confident, everything I wasn't anymore. I just had a baby. I had stretch marks. I was tired all the time. I barely wore makeup. Of course, Mark wanted someone else, someone beautiful, someone exciting. I cried and cried until I had no tears left. That evening, I couldn't even look at Mark. He said, "Margaret, what's wrong?" I said, "Nothing. I'm fine." He reached for my hand. I pulled away. I said, "Just go to your second job, Mark." He looked confused and hurt, but he left. The next day I decided